Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving. I'm back at the Great British Car Journey driving another of the Drive Dad's car fleet, this time a 1963 Austin A40 Farina. And you can drive this car too if you hit the link in the description below. Now let's find out all about this Austin. So this is the gorgeous angular design of the A40 Farina. It's a really pretty thing. It looks like it should be a hatchback, but it's not. It's got a little boot area here with a tailgate that looks hinged at the bottom. This is 1958. 1959, the Countryman came out, which is arguably one of the very first hatchbacks because it had a split tailgate opening at top and bottom, giving you full access into the interior, which is really what this car should have had from the outset. And this car is incredible. It's hard to believe this has actually got 250,000 miles on it. The steering on tight turns is a little bit trunniony, but that's the only giveaway. It's absolutely remarkable. It looks like a full-on rally car. BMC did actually rally these things, and Pat Moss took this to great success in the Monte Carlo. Now inside the car, very interesting, combination red and black, looks really fetching. Black crackle finish, black dashboard in this car, but in 1964 wooden fascia became a thing. Now this has got, as is fairly normal of the time, we've got a bit of body colour paintwork around the door frames, handy little door pull at the top for shutting the door, which is surprisingly useful, but tiny little thing. Quarter lights of course, and this interesting BMC type two-way handle, so push down to open, pull up to lock, and of course a little window winder. Something you might have noticed are these seats. Obviously these are not the correct looking seats for this car. They are the original seats underneath it, but this is a period accessory because you weren't allowed to have bucket seats in competition when this car was new. However, you were allowed to have seat covers, and no one mandated that the seat covers couldn't have sides on them. So this is actually a period accessory, believe it or not. Looking inside at the dashboard, we've got a big slim rimmed steering wheel. Just two spokes, looking very modern and fancy. The crest in the centre does date it somewhat. That looks very old-fashioned compared to the rest of the style. We've got this interesting semi-rectangular speedometer, very Thunderbirdsy actually in this, where the font is slanting off in the different directions it's facing. Very cool. And we've got separate arrows for indicator turn signals just there and there. Little tiny light for the ignition, tiny light for the oil, warning light for the oil. Let's flick that on, see if you can see that. There you go. So you can see them now. In the centre, a very small panel of controls: air, choke, panel light, blower, one speed wipers. Someone's added these Smith's gauges into this Austin area here, which is kind of Art Deco before you do that. A couple more blower controls and a very simple little tea shelf here. 3 cups. So it's a 4-seater, so someone doesn't get a cup of tea. Very cruel. Underneath all of that we do have a sub tea shelf, padded. This is your crash protection, this little bit of padding, because there are no seat belts. So if you do go anything, this little bit of padding will save you, as will this little bit of padding just here, which is actually surprisingly squishy. Headroom is excellent in this car. Really tall ceiling, lots of room out towards the shoulders, so it's very comfortable indeed, and lots of room in the back as well. Final test, horn test. That's not the original PARP. In the centre, obviously no centre console, but we do a 4-speed manual gearbox with reverse over to the back. So lift the lid on the front of the car, we find an A-series, unusually, because normally you see an A-series transverse. This one though is pointing that way, driving the rear wheels for a change, which looks almost alien in this concept. However, this is lifted directly from the Morris Minor with 948cc, and as it went into the era of the Mk2, it was making a whole 37 horsepower. In autumn 1962, it was upgraded to the 1098cc, so a massive power hike to 48 horsepower, although that sounds like nothing. It's a 25% increase on the old power output. Well, not big power, but does the job very well indeed. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you out there will have noticed the wrong number of carburetors in this car, because it's got one more than normal. There are 2. It's also, I'm going to have to admit this, a 1275cc. So when I was so very impressed with the sprightly performance from 48 horsepower, it's actually probably making about double that. Yeah. But anyway, 1275 twin carb. This one absolutely flies. Now I have to admit to being missing some in-car footage here. Maybe it was the heavy rain, maybe it's the camera overheating, I don't know. We were working very hard this day, but we're going to have to go with a voiceover, so sorry about that. Okay, setting off in the A40, and interestingly, although this is still named after its approximate original power, around 40 horsepower, this is the first time Austin in a long time had not added a county name to it, but instead it's named after its designer, Farina. And curiously for BMC, it wasn't rebadged for the other brands either, only in Austin. Allegedly, the sharp modern styling came about after one of Prince Philip's famous quips when he toured Longbridge and commented how dowdy the cars look compared to European rivals. So after a hurried phone call to Italy, this happened. Now, despite the bigger engine, it's still not rapid by modern standards, but that 1275 does give it a noticeably bigger pep in its step, and it feels very brisk. And of course, there's still that unmistakable A-series sound, made even better by those twin carbs. Although as my internal camera stopped working, you're sadly not enjoying it this time as much as you would normally. Now mechanically it is virtually an A35, but with its independent front coil suspension and live rear axle with semi-elliptical rear springs, it actually feels surprisingly tight and modern for a car of the late 1950s. That's helped by the big glass area, making it feel airy and spacious, huge compared to the A35 or Morris Minor. Climbing in from a modern car, you almost don't notice these bucket seat covers, which help hold you in quite well around the corners, certainly better than the fairly flat seats that are hiding underneath them. As a driver, the pedals are really small and they're offset quite heavily to the left, so with size 11 clodhoppers it is a little tight underfoot, but generally it's a very easy car to drive. The gears are positive and easy to find, and the steering is very light, and the brakes have decent bite too, but it is a very light car. This is a 1963 model, so it should have hydraulic brakes all round, as they came in for the 62-63 model year. Before that though, it had a curious system called a Hydromech with hydraulic front brakes and cable operated rears. Also, as this is a 1963, it's a Mk2 that arrived in 1961 and ran until the end in 1967, and that means, as well as a minor facelift, it has an extra 87mm in the wheelbase for more room inside and a smoother ride. In 1962, Autocar tested an A40 and managed 75.2 mph and 0 to 50, not 60, 50 in 17.4 seconds and averaged 36.5 mpg. That car cost you £693, including, incredibly, £218 of tax, so an entire third of it was tax. It's worth a lot more now, and the engine upgrade certainly improves those speed figures. By 1967, when A40 production ended, it was looking rather dated compared to the ADO 16, which had been on sale alongside it since 1962/63 across all the brands. The A40 was smaller inside and outclassed in the handling stakes. It's surprising a company so paranoid about internal competition allowed it to stay on the books for so long. Driving this car today is huge fun. It has a fantastic, enjoyable feel, a fresh feeling. It has a fantastic late mid-century feel. It's not perfect, as there's that kind of slight vagueness any car designed 70 years ago will have, but despite its galactic mileage, this car feels tighter than many cars of the era I've driven with a fraction of those miles. And it feels modern enough to drive easily and regularly, and practical enough to use as a proper classic family car, or as this one has been, take it on classic rallies. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and join me again next time driving something completely different and with a camera inside the car again, as we normally do. Goodbye!